We're going to go back and look at the top scoring rookies from week 12 in fantasy scoring and analyze how they're doing, whether or not we need them in fantasy, and project them out going forward. Well, what you need to do right now is click that subscribe button. Tap it with the finger on your phone, click it with the mouse on your computer. That way you can stop missing out on these deep dives that we do on the waiver wire every single week. We drop waiver wire videos every day. We also help you set those lineups, and I'm going to be a key resource for you for your research over the summer as you get ready for your drafts in 2024. Click that button. Stop missing out. Let's recap these rookies real quick like we do every single week. And the topper off, our top scoring rookie is CJ Stroud with 30.9 PPR fantasy points. For quarterbacks, the scoring's all over the place depending on settings. But for the spreadsheet that sorts players out by draft range, QB4 here. Could be up and down depending on what you're looking at, what site you're playing on, whatever. But still, we know CJ Stroud's good. We know he slings the ball downfield. 345 air yards in this game. 9.6 average depth of target because he's an accurate passer downfield. And he showed it here against Jacksonville. 81.3% of his dropbacks was with a clean pocket. And most of his balls were catchable at 76.5%. Solid quarterback play. I don't think anybody is going to really argue against CJ Stroud at this point. And he has been a hot commodity this year, really elevating the Houston Texans offense. Tank Dell, Nico Collins, the rest of the wide receivers in general. CJ Stroud balling out. Bijan Robinson doing what he should be doing, scoring fantasy points. PPR 2.7.3 points, RB3 on the week with a 55% opportunity share, ran just 14 routes and a 58.3% route participation rate, but had 19 total touches. We need him to be in this touch range. We need him to push 20 touches a game because they drafted him to do so with that draft capital. He's a top-tier talent at the position and a guy that's good in the passing game, good between the tackles, good all over, very explosive. Not surprised with his output, not at all. And this is really where he should be more often on a weekly basis. Rashee Rice had his big performance against the Raiders here. Saw 10 targets in this matchup, 24.7 PPR fantasy points, wide receiver 3 on the week. Could this be a sign that he's going to be heating up? Could he be doing this more consistently going forward? We don't know. These wide receivers for the Chiefs have been up and down. Also, the usage has been up and down for these wide receivers. He only saw 43 air yards in this game, which is a bad sign. Not good to see, but I do like that he saw 10 targets, a 31.3% target share. That's elite. They need to start targeting these wide receivers a little bit more downfield. They'll be a little bit more dynamic. I think Rashee Rice will excel better with deeper targets as well. He's built for that, considering he's solid with contested catches. Ran 26 routes, 68.4% route participation rate. That's another clue that he's been in and out of the offense because he's running routes on just a little bit over half of that. I like it better if he's around 80 to 90%, and they maybe need to do so considering how good he's been, how consistent he's been in fantasy scoring and in production in general. So maybe they should start just giving him more opportunities, allowing him to produce at this high level. But Rashee Rice, as a rookie, a good season. Been doing well, has been performing. This offense has been limiting his opportunities, downfield opportunities, touches, snaps, routes. But again, more opportunities could lead to more performances like this. Rashee Rice on the upswing. Zay Flowers scored 23.2 PPR fantasy points, was the wide receiver 6 on the week with 8 targets and a 26.7% target share. 38 air yards on this game. He didn't get targeted deep downfield, but saw a lot of volume on 36 routes, ran 100% of the routes, so it's good that he's on the field the whole game, running sprints, getting those targets as well. I like it if he got more deeper targets, but still, he's been off and on this year in fantasy scoring. 23 points last week, 8 the week prior, 12 before that, and then 2, then 6. The air yards isn't there. He's not getting deep targets. The volume really has to be there for him to be productive, or it needs to fall in the end zone. But still, wide receiver 6 on the week for week 12. A good week for Zay Flowers. Sam Laporta with 17.7 PPR fantasy points and the tight end 3 for the week. He's really been a breath of fresh air for the tight end position, because the tight end position is very wonky, and it's good to see a young tight end, a rookie, step in and be productive right off the rip. You do not see many tight ends do that as a rookie, and he has been a standout player. Still a little bit off and on, but that's just the tight end position for you. 8 targets and 19% target share. Ran 40 routes in this game. High number for a tight end, and has been productive. One of the top tight ends in fantasy. 64 air yards. We don't really look at that for tight ends, but the volume's there. He's been consistent. Tight end 3 for the week. Sam Laporta is just good to go at the position. Tank Dell getting it done. Wide receiver 22 in week 12, 17.2 PPR fantasy points. He gets deep downfield and is consistent with the targets, sharing a lot of the passing in with Nico Collins. But CJ Stroud's good. Tank Dell is very nuanced and can create separation. He's running a lot of routes, getting a lot of workload, being productive, being consistent. Everything you want out of a wide receiver at this rate, especially for a rookie who was drafted in the 3rd round at his size, really gets downfield. Used more than just a slot receiver. They use him all over the place. It's just a wide receiver. Just a good wide receiver who gets open, gets downfield, and makes plays happen. Jalen Hyatt went off last week. 15.9 PPR fantasy points as the wide receiver 24. Saw 125 air yards in this contest. He's the Will Fuller of the 2023 draft class, as he's the deep ball specialist. And a guy like that, you can't count on every week unless he really starts churning out some targets. But still, he's a guy that you see as a flyer that may go off on any given Sunday, and also a guy you got to pay attention to for the rest of the season for 2024, and maybe for the back end of the season as well, because the air yards are there. He's averaging 98 air yards per game over his last 4 games, and I get it. He's not producing at a high rate in fantasy right now, just in last week, but still, you got to pay attention because the numbers are saying there's something that could be there with Jalen Hyatt. Jaden Reed's doing Jaden Reed things. He's been consistent over the last few weeks. Scored 15 fantasy points in week 12. The wide receiver 25. Top end wide receiver 3 for week 12. 8 targets, 26.7% target share. Ran 26 routes on a 78.8% route participation rate. Only saw 64 air yards, so not many deep bombs going his way, but still the volume was there. You're seeing 8 or more targets in a game. That's a good workload for you, and he was getting the opportunities. He's being consistent. He's making the most of what's going his way. Aiden O'Connell, the rookie quarterback, we just want to acknowledge him because, honestly, we don't know if this is going to be a long-term thing, but a guy that if you're in a 2 QB league and he happens to still be around, you got to take a look at him. But really, he's rostered in 2 QB leagues, should be on a team. In 1 QB, you really can't start him unless you're really hurting. QB 15 last week, but 80.6% of his balls are catchable. He's operating out of a clean pocket. 159 air yards, though. 4.8 average depth of target. So the ball's not really going super deep downfield. We want to see that pick up a little bit. If he can get an 8 out of like around 8, 9, 10, you can see that fantasy production start to increase. However, the catchable percentage will decrease as well, considering that's a higher acuity target that he's pushing downfield. But still, that will equate to more fantasy points if you can connect on deeper balls there. But still, Aiden O'Connell, a rookie, a lot of people were not looking at until preseason, and he's exceeding expectations. You got to tip your hat to that. We got to see if he can make a career out of this, being a starter. I don't know about that. I don't know if we can bet on that. But still, he's doing some things. A quarterback you may not be looking at for fantasy unless you're absolutely hurting. Rashawn Johnson saw some opportunities in week 12, allowed him to produce 12.5 PPR fantasy points, and was the RB21. So he was an RB2, a back-end RB2 for week 12, a 65.2% opportunity share, ran 22 routes, using the passing game. And the thing about him, it's all about Deontay Foreman. You know when he comes back, Rashawn Johnson may not be seeing, or probably won't be seeing, the same amount of opportunities. However, this is his time to audition for the back end of the season and into 2024, and we need him to produce at a high rate, be efficient, catch balls out of the backfield, and prove his worth for next year and maybe down the season as well. Looking at the final 3 rookies here, these guys are outside the top 10 in scoring per rookies. However, we still want to note them. Jahmyr Gibbs has been hitting at the running back position. Might have been up and down during the beginning of the season, but still 11.3 PPR fantasy points in week 12. Keaton Mitchell had another decent performance here, another double-digit fantasy performance. Watching him touch the ball is fascinating because it gets you on the edge of your seat because you do not know if he's going to house it or not, and that's with every play. He has the ball in his hands, and that makes him fun for fantasy, even if he duds out that week, because at least you know you got a guy to watch on the screen there that could go off or could dud out on any play, and you don't know. So that makes him an exhilarating option for fantasy football. And Demario Douglas gets a lot of targets, does not get many deep balls. A lot of short targets go his way, but the volume's there. Like 8 targets per game over his last 4 games. A player you may want to look at off waivers if he's still sitting there because the volume's still there. I don't look for him to have much upside unless he crosses the goal line, gets some goal line opportunities, but still the volume's going to buoy him enough to get you by in fantasy football. And those are the rookies that we're looking at from week 12. We're looking at the trends. We're looking at the data. We're looking at the overall work rate on these rookies to see whether or not how they're going to be going forward. But let me know what you think in the comments below. I want to hear about that. Make sure you hit that subscribe button on the way out. I want to thank you for watching. Catch you on the next video.